7 waiting. You did go live on. You sure you went live?
Yeah. There you go.
Oh yeah. We're good. We're live.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Mike and Mike, thanks for joining us today. We're gonna wait another minute or so. We've got several people here, but we're gonna wait for a few more to join. But we do appreciate you guys taking time out of your busy day, and right before the Memorial Weekend here in the U.S. And we'll definitely be able to. Mike and I are gonna try and answer your questions today. This is our first live stream, so bear with us. Hopefully, there's no technical difficulties. And at my age, hopefully I can last long enough not have to get up and go pee. So
And let us know if there's any technical difficulties, video, audio, anything like that. Let us know, because I'm moderating here.
Yeah.
So I should be able to fix it.
And
right
feel
now,
free to start sending in your questions so we can start getting them organized.
Yeah, questions in the chat.
In the chat.
On the right-hand side of your screen, usually. I don't know. No questions yet. I don't know if we should do. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, we can talk a little bit about. Mike and I are experimenting with a new product here in the store. So, as you know, one of the most iconic brands in the high-end audio is Lin. And Lin reached out to us several weeks ago, and they don't have a dealer in Florida.
Hi, Daryl.
Hi, guys. They asked us to, think about becoming a dealer for them. Obviously, Lin has 3 main components. They have the iconic LP12 turntable, which ranges in price from $5,000 all the way up to $30,000, depending on what upgrades you do to it. And obviously, it's something that can be upgraded. They also have streamers, so they have streamers ranging from approximately $4,000, $4,500 all the way up to $39,000. That's the second component. And then the third is Lin has active speakers. So they have a range of active speakers from very modestly priced, a few $1,000s, all the way up to close to $100,000. So like we do as a dealer, we get asked a lot of times to carry certain brands, and we're evaluating at this point in time.
I love it.
I love it. So I asked them to send us their $39,000 streamer. It's called the Climax DSM. It's the organic, technology that Lin has created all in-house. And it was on the cover of Stereophile or The Absolute Sound. I forget. The Absolute Sound. Maybe a couple months ago, if you remember that, it was the Lin streamer. And anyway, we've been testing it here in the store for a few weeks, and it's very different. It's ruthlessly transparent, extremely detailed, but not bright or aggressive or anything like that. It's a different sound. You can't say, it sounds like vinyl, it sounds like analog. It doesn't.
It's totally unique.
It's totally different.
Unlike anything I've ever heard.
Yeah.
The first time I heard it, it blew me away. Mike was there. He saw it. I was mind blown. Truly mind blown. Unlike anything I've ever heard. And it's like you said.
Yeah.
It's like 8K video, but for audio.
Yeah.
The way that they have some kind of voodoo going on with that chip.
Yeah, they do. It's certainly not 4K. It's 8K in terms of resolution. Give you an example, some tracks that I know very, very well. We were listening to a couple, and both Mike and I picked up right away certain nuances, little breaths from the singer, subtle things with their lips moving, like a little creak of a chair in the studio. I mean, I'm talking, this thing retrieves every bit of information, that stuff you didn't think was there.
Right.
So
yeah, absolutely.
The jury's still out. I don't know. I like more of an analog sound. I want it to sound more like tape and vinyl and things like that. This doesn't sound like that, but that's not a bad thing. It has its own sound. Mike loves it. He
I love it.
absolutely loves the sound.
The
It's
separation.
yeah,
Is
the
incredible.
separation, the speed, the dynamics. It's certainly very good. Do we have any questions, Mike?
We do. So Chris Maths, he says he has a very specific question. He'd like to know our favorite speaker that matches with the Luxming 595.
Favorite speaker that matches? We would need to know. I'll give you a short answer, but more importantly, I need to know your room size, because if I say my favorite speaker is the Harbeth. For this purpose, I'm just making this up. The Harbeth 30XD. You might say, "Oh, well, my room is 25 by 35." Well, that's not going to be a good match for that particular room. But with the 595, by the way, congratulations. If you own that integrated, that is a phenomenal sounding integrated. And I think we've talked before that the Class A amplifiers from Luxming are unfortunately going away for eco reasons. They're trying to be more green rather than create amplifiers that draw all the power from the wall, and whatever isn't used to power the speakers is turned into heat. So they're trying to be more eco-friendly, and so we're starting to see some new products coming from Luxming. The 507Z, I would imagine we'll eventually see a 509Z, 505. I'm imagining, we don't have the information, but it kind of follows their nomenclature, if you will.
His room is 14 by 20, by the way.
14 by 20. I think the Fine 702, depending on your budget.
Yeah, budget is also a factor.
Yeah.
I would agree.
The Fine 702 and a 14 by 20 would be really good. They're efficient. They're easy to drive. They're not forward sounding. A lot of people think, "Oh, is that like a horn in there?" Yeah, it is. It's a horn tweeter essentially, but it's not aggressive or forward at all. In fact, no other speaker that we know of goes through more change during break-in than the Fine Audios. And the 702s, given that the 595 is only 35 watts a channel, the 702s are definitely a good match for sure.
So we have another question here. In general terms, how would you compare the Lin and ND555 as sources?
Wow, that's a tough one. We have both of them. Yeah, that's a tough one. The ND555 is a very musical streamer. I think it has a little bit more meat on the bones, if you will. But the Lin has more transparency and detail. I think the bass on the Lin might actually be better than even the 555 with the extra power supply.
I agree 100%.
Yeah, which doesn't make any sense, because you would think, well, if you have a separate power supply, you'd think the bass would be better on the ND555.
We called it.
Yeah, you can tell we're live. The FedEx gentleman just showed up.
How's it going?
So sorry about the interruption. We knew this was going to happen. Yeah. We were talking about this. But to get back to your question, the 555 is a lot more money than the Lin. Well, maybe not a lot more, but it's certainly more money. The benefit to the 555 is that you're going to be able to put multiple power supplies. So you can actually buy two power supplies. They're actually called the 555 PSU. You can actually have two of them, one for the analog section, one for the digital, and that gives you even greater dynamics and separation and musicality. And it does even lower the noise floor, I found. That being said, unless you're in an all-name system, don't go down that road, because you're going to drive yourself insane trying to figure out the DIN cables and the Burn-D cables and all the other things. That name is for name and Lin is for everything else, in this particular question. So hopefully that answers your question.
So we do have another one from Stephen Hubel. Sorry if I botched your name. Thoughts on the A5 in a smallish dedicated room, 15 by 13, Definitely looking for a full range floor stander, so the A5 is on the short list, but open to other ideas as well.
So the 15 by 13 actually isn't a really that's not a small room. It's actually more of a medium sized room. So the A5 does very well. In fact, in the back we have a small room. It's 14 by 18, 16, somewhere in there. And the A5 does beautiful back there. The sealed cabinet design allows you to get great bass, defined bass, tight bass in the room without overloading it. So I think the A5 would work really, really well. Other suggestions, I think, the Karma, the DB7 would be good because we showed that at the Florida Audio Expo in a small room. I think our showroom was 13 by 16, and either the S7S from Karma or the DB7S from Karma would work well in that room as well.
And would load it.
And would load it. And I would also think the 803 D4 from Bowers and Wilkins, because it's a downward firing port, would also work very well in that room and not really excite it. So
agreed.
Those are three I would look at for sure.
All right, what else? We've got a good evening from Finland.
Wow. Hello, Finland.
Hello, Finland. Thanks for being here. His name is Michael.
Good name.
Good name, Mike. Yeah.
We like that name. We're in agreement with that.
Yeah. Chris said thanks for the 702 recommendation.
No problem.
Okay, here's another one from Chris. In a highly resolving system, is an audiophile switch a solution in search of a problem or a valuable building block?
That's a really good question.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys know, but my background is actually IT. So I started an IT company in 1993, a long time ago, and I didn't get into high-end audio retail. I was always in high-end audio from the 1970s as, an audiophile, but I didn't get in until 2015. So my background is IT, mostly ERP systems, SAP, Oracle, doing large-scale implementation. So I had, a lot of consultants and a lot of employees and multiple offices. We had the software development team, and we did everything from the development side, the ABAP development side, to the basis side, to everything in between. So I do have some experience in the IT side. I will say, the best switch is no switch. Okay, so if you can come direct from the router, in that particular case, we recommend a much less expensive solution called the Gigafoil. You can look it up. It's roughly $500-600. It's an industrial product that cleans up the network. So we do sell it here. I'm sure there's other places you could buy it as well. It's $500-600 if memory serves me correct. It looks like crap. I mean, it's
a piece of lead.
It's a piece of lead, so be careful when you handle it.
Wash your hands.
Yeah, wash your hands. But it's Ethernet in, Ethernet out, and it cleans up the signal tremendously for not a lot of money. That's a good solution if you're coming right from the router. If you have to use a switch, and we find most people do have to use a switch, then the aftermarket switches do have improvements. We have had some that we didn't hear any difference, like the Eastern. I don't think there was really much of a difference.
No.
And then we had a customer bring over the Synergistic Research switch to compare against our Nordos switch and the other one we have in the back room, the Inuit switch.
Yep.
Yeah. And then we used as a basis a really crappy Netgear switch that we had for $20 on Amazon. Okay, so our goal in this shootout was really to say, does it make a difference? Absolutely. The customer was convinced, we were convinced. There was a profound difference. So to give you an example, we were listening to B.B. King and Eric Clapton's album, and when we were using the $20 switch, they sounded distant. They sounded way back, like everything was smaller and further back. when we switched to any of the other switches, and I'm not going to say one was better than the other. I think they were all, we actually agreed they were all good and they were all doing the same thing. And that was bringing the images forward, making them more lifelike and not so small. And so we do feel that they can provide, in a highly resolving system like you asked, we do feel that they can provide a real benefit. And they range from all across the board in terms of pricing, and we're not going to say this one's the best and that one's no good. No, I mean, they're all trying to lower noise, and remember, in the world of digital, noise is the enemy. So that's why we talk about noise from the network transport side. What I mean by network transport is the device that's pulling the music from your NAS or Qobuz or Tidal or wherever.
That's your source, your proper source.
And feeding it to your DAC. That's what I mean by network transport. Yeah. So that's a very important thing, as well as, so devices like Arenders and Inuuses and other similar devices strive to lower the noise. Then we now are figuring out, and I think people are just starting to catch on, that the software side has a big part. So software, transport, DAC, those are the three pieces that go together. Obviously your network would be the fourth bit. But the software side, we're finding out that there are heavy graphic intensive, busy, peer-to-peer network built software pieces like Rune that create noise, and they can degrade the sound. And anyone that comes in can grab the Takeo software and compare it to the Rune. They can grab the Inuus and compare it to Rune on the same device. I'm not bashing Rune. It is the best user interface, hands down. It makes all the other ones look like 1995 Windows. Yeah. But it does come at a cost, and there is a slight degradation to sound in using Rune. I run Rune at home for one of my systems, my name system at home. I have a name SuperNate 3 and the entry level streamer from Name. But in my main system, I'm using a render. So, and I'm seriously looking at the Inuus statement and doing a comparison there. But
and Rune has improved a lot.
Over the years. They understand, they've quietly, I think, recognized that sound is being impacted, and I think they are making moves to improve the sound. We've heard it, and I think even the gentleman, Emil from Takeo, has said, yeah, you know, they've taken big strides to improve the sound.
And that's all software, which is incredible. Yeah. They're able to do it from software only.
So your network, the software, the transport, the DAC, all four of those go together to really produce the best sound and the best reproduction.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, so next up, this is a good one. This is from Divertity. Mm-hmm. Do MSB DACs respond to aftermarket fuses? I love this question.
Yeah, I love this question. So,
we get it a lot.
Yeah, the fuse question. So Mike and I, we purchased a bunch of fuses, and we wanted to try them. There were some crazy ones from various companies, and I gotta admit, we took an afternoon. And we sat there, and it was on the MSB, right?
Yeah, it was.
All right, so we were switching the fuses on the MSB, and honest to God, no. We couldn't hear a difference. No. Mike's theory is that they get the fuse from Home Depot and then put a different color label on it.
Yeah, put a sticker on.
Just put a sticker on it. So, no, we couldn't, honest to God. I would love to tell you, yeah, we heard it. No, we didn't. There's, you know, for me, I'm very skeptical of the voodoo, you know, the voodoo that's out there. There are certain things that work, that you can hear it. They make a difference, you know, good dissipation of energy. Some people call it isolation. I prefer dissipation of energy, things like that. They do work, and you can do simple tests at home and experiment. I know on Amazon, they actually, so if everybody's, did it freeze up, or are we good?
No, we're good.
Oh, okay, sorry. I know people are thinking that, you know, they're going to go out and buy, we're advocating to buy really expensive isolation devices, but you can do a simple experiment at home. Okay, it's not rocket science, but you can buy on Amazon, they sell these little, It's got strip of rubber on the top, strip of rubber on the bottom, and it's cork in the middle. Okay, they're probably 99 cents. If you just want to try it, buy 4 of them, put it under your DAC, your CD player, whatever, and try it, and you will hear a difference. And so that type of isolation, dissipation, that type of thing, it does make a difference. And there's certain types of voodoo that we believe in because there is science behind it. But in the fuses, man, I didn't hear anything. We tried. I mean, trust me.
We wanted to, yeah.
Yeah, we wanted to hear a difference, and we did try different brands, and I think there was one that was even a $700 fuse or something.
Oh yeah, more than that, I think.
Yeah, if you strained, there was an ounce of detail more, but no, I really didn't hear it.
It's placebo, if anything, in my opinion, in our opinion.
If you're sitting there and your system is finished and you got money burning a hole in your pocket,
go ahead and spend $800 on it.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
Okay, next up, this is from Fael Riaz.
Mm-hmm.
Have you heard ProAct speakers? You guys have a great selection of speakers, so I wondered if you had any ideas of upgrading my ProAct K8 to anything other than the K10. Thank you.
Well, I have heard ProAct speakers. Obviously, when you go to the trade shows, they're there, and we've heard them, and they sound very good. I can't give you much advice in terms of upgrading from one model to the next because I'm not familiar with the brand well enough to comment. But they do sound good. We always go and hear them, and they sound good. But no, I don't really have any suggestions from the upgrade standpoint.
Okay, so our next comes from Daryl McBain.
Mm-hmm.
How big and dissatisfaction with their audio room systems have to do with people ignoring the electrical to the house and its path to an audio room?
That's a really good question.
That's a good question.
That's a really, really excellent question. Power, I'll tell you, when I started, convincing people that dirty power was a bad thing for their audio system was difficult for them to appreciate. So I went out and I bought an EMI meter and some other tools that were recommended, and I started to take them to customers' houses. And when they heard the noise that was on their line, they immediately changed. They did a 180, like, okay, we need to fix this. And so to answer your question, I think today there's still half of the audiophiles out there that ignore the importance of good, clean power. Your dedicated panel box. You can go to the extremes. So at my house right now, I'm going through a project of putting in a $4,000, 400-pound transformer. It's industrial grade. It's going to go outside. I know this is the extreme, but in Florida, we have air conditioning running all the time, the pool pumps going all the time, the fridge going all the time, in my case, the wine cooler going all the time. There's things always running. So I'm working with the gentleman that helped Michael Framer with his power, so you can probably find those videos out there. Rex is his name, and you could probably go out and find the videos where Mike talks about that. And I'm working with Vince from MSB, who's also very knowledgeable about power. So my situation at home is good because I have a dedicated panel box and I do have, dedicated circuits and things like that. But I want to take it to the next level and put in a giant transformer, which is going to, lower the noise floor, increase dynamics, and more and more and more. You put that big hunk of copper in there, and you're definitely going to benefit. So, great question. I would also follow that up and say that more audiophiles don't pay attention to the room and the room treatments. The power is definitely there, but first and foremost, I would say room and room treatments are the biggest challenge. And setup. So room setup, power. Those are all things we don't sell. I mean, I'm just telling you, those are really, really important. All those things combined are, I'm going to pull a percentage on my ass, but probably 50%. You combine those things, the equipment is the other half. But the power, the room, and treating the room, and know how to treat the room, your first and second reflection points, your bass traps, measuring the room, your seating position, very, very important. And then also setting the speakers up properly in the room for their design. So all of these things go together. They're all things that you can learn. There's a lot of resources out there. I mentioned before Jim Smith's book, Get Better Sound. You can buy it on Amazon, read it cover to cover. You'll learn a ton. There's a lot of things like that that you can really learn. So,
All right, what do we have from Cindy, who is an employee with us? She says, "You guys are awesome. Please keep spreading the knowledge.
right,
You're awesome too, Cindy."
Thank you, Cindy.
And then what do we have here? Okay, so Michael Freeland wants to know the brand and model of those beautiful speakers behind us, specifically the polished wood veneer ones.
Well, the good news is they're for sale.
They're for sale.
These are the Fine F112. So these are the current top of the line model from Fine Audio in Scotland. And Fine Audio is a company I stumbled upon 4 years ago, 5 years ago. I went to Munich, and if you've never been to Munich, there's two parts to the Munich high-end show. There's the main part, which is at the Munich Convention Center, and then there's another part that goes on in the evening, and it's called Hi-Fi Deluxe. Hi-Fi Deluxe is held at the Marriott Munich Hotel. So think of it like an Expona, like a Rocky Mountain, a Florida Audio Expo. Think of it like one of those types of shows. So when you get done at the Munich Convention Center and walking around all day and seeing the 650 rooms at the convention center, now you have another show in the evening, which is at the Marriott Munich, and it's probably a couple hundred rooms of startups, smaller companies, that sort of thing. And that's where I stumbled upon Fine Audio. And I walked in, and there was gray-haired old guys, even older than me, and they were telling me their story that they had left Tannoy, and because Tannoy was moving operations to China, and they decided to stay in Scotland, start Fine Audio, and they even got funding for this project. So that's how I came across Fine Audio. So, and I was actually the first dealer for Fine in the United States. So
I didn't think I would like them when they came in. I remember when we first and they need break-in time.
Yeah, they'll change. They'll go from kind of thin and shouty to smooth and warm in 200 hours. Like I said earlier, they're the speaker that breaks in more and changes and transitions from what it is out of the box to where it begins, more than any other speaker I can even remember. That where they end up is beautiful, very musical, smooth. Speaking of Jim Smith, he has the 703 Fine Audios at home. So good speakers, very good speakers.
They are very good. Okay, this one comes from Mark Schuessler. In the 10 to 20K range for a DAC made in North America, do you have a view on whether Moon offerings 680D and 780D V2 are competition with offerings from the likes of MSB, Bricasti, Bryston, etc.?
Well, that's a really good question. We've been asked, ever since Mike and I heard the 780 V2 at Expona, we've been asking our rep to send us one to try, because we heard it in 2 rooms, and in both rooms we were really, really impressed with the digital source. Those 2 rooms, one was a Wilson room, I think, Wilson Audio room, and then the other one was the Dyne Audio room with the Octave amplifiers, and they sounded great. So I'd like to try one out. So to answer your question, at this point in time, with my experience with what we've played with, and we've played with a lot of DACs between 10 and 20 grand, my absolute favorite is the MSB Discreet with the second power supply. That today until May 31st is $13,450. That combination, and that includes either a Roon renderer module or a Pro USB module. So if you had an Arender, an Orlick, or an Inuus or something like that you wanted to use, you would get the Pro USB module. So the Pro USB module is it's a standalone module that you plug the USB into one side, fiber optic out of the other side into the fiber optic module that goes in the back of the DAC. So that is $2,000, and so is the Rune render module. So if you're a Rune guy and you've got a little nuke and a nucleus or something, and you're running Rune core and you want to stay with Rune, the Rune render module is very, very good sounding. And so you just plug an Ethernet cable into there and it becomes a Rune endpoint. So for $13,450, the MSB discrete, the second power supply. So why the second power supply? That it already comes with one, but you get a second one, and now you'll have one for the analog section of the DAC and one for the digital section. It's quote unquote only $1,450 more, but it is a significant improvement to the DAC. It's money well spent. So the discrete, the second power supply, and either the Rune render module or the Pro USB, same price, would be $13,450 until the end of this month. After that, I believe they're going up approximately, that setup would go up at least $3,000. So unfortunately, the prices are going up. But that would be, for me, that would be my favorite between 10 and 20. So
same.
And I'd like to hear the 780 V2 from Sim Audio, because we did, we had exposure to it at Exponent, and we were really, really impressed.
Yep. Okay, next up from Stephen Hubel, another DAC question. Thoughts on how the Weiss DAC is stacking up in the roughly 10K range?
Yeah, that's a good question. The Weiss DAC has a lot of features and functions. So it has the vinyl emulation, it has the de-esser, so it removes a lot of sibilants from overly sibilant recordings like Paul Simon and other people like that.
Frank Sinatra, old stuff.
Yeah, old stuff. It does its magic. It's a very, very good DAC. If you want those functions, I think that's a really good DAC to go for. If you don't really care about vinyl emulation and room correction and a lot of these DSP functions, such as the de-esser and other things, like it actually has all this room EQ and functions built into it. If that's your thing, if that's something you're interested in, it's a great DAC. If not, if you're just like, I want to, set it and forget it kind of DAC, there's probably others in that price range you could look at. For me, the Aqua La Scala, which is a little less money, is my favorite under $10,000. I know we're not supposed to have favorites, but it is my favorite under $10,000.
Or that's the little Vogue.
No, the La Scala.
The La Scala less than 10?
Yes, it's 9.
Oh yeah, it's like
So that DAC, it has 2 little tubes in it. It's an R to R ladder DAC. It has 2 tubes in it. It's going to give you 3D. It's going to give you beautiful, beautiful digital rendering of music. It is really a fantastic one. If you can splurge a little bit more and get the MSB, you're going to get much more into it sounds like vinyl, it sounds like tape, it sounds like music kind of DAC, which is really what MSB is all about. And people ask me like to try and explain it, and we have a track here that we play, which is a Karen Carpenter track, and you can hear on other DACs this kind of digitization of her voice. When you play it on even the entry-level MSB, none of that sounds fleshy and real. So that's a track we use, and it sells the DAC, because people are like, well, yeah, I can hear it. So something to think about.
Yeah. And we're still on the DAC subject. This one comes from Joe L. How good is the DAC in the Hi-Fi Rose RS150B? What level DAC can you compare it to?
So the DAC in the RS150B is that Sabre 9038 Pro DAC chip, and it is used in much more expensive streamers.
Yes.
It sounds very close to a lot more expensive streamers. So it is sounding like at least double, maybe even triple its price in terms of sound. Remember, You've got to do the things I talked about on my video to get the most out of the Rose. So turn off any unused inputs, turn off any unused outputs. Most importantly, turn off the screen. I know the screen's beautiful. I know it is. But if you're going to be sitting there and you're going to go into a critical listening mode, a serious listening mode, you're going to be sitting there, it's a Sunday afternoon, and you're going to be listening for 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. Turn the screen off, turn off the unused inputs and outputs, and you will see the DAC go from here to here in terms of performance. So to answer your question, it definitely competes with DACs costing much more.
Oh, yeah.
Now, Rose is also coming out with, you're hearing it here first, a new product, and I believe the model number is going to be the RS530, but don't quote me on this. I got to go look it up. There was a picture of it at Munich high-end show. Now, it will not be shipping until the 4th quarter, but I was flipping through some pictures from Munich. I actually didn't get to go this year. I'll be going next year again. I've been many, many times. It's if you ever want a pilgrimage to the holy site of audio, that's the one to go to. You got to go. It's something to do once in your life. You won't believe it. But I saw a picture of this coming soon from Rose, Hi-Fi Rose, which was this new I believe it was called the RS530 or 540. It was a 5 something. And I think it looks like it's going to be a pretty badass product. Don't know the price. We don't have any details. There was nothing other than a poster that was put up in the hallway, in one of the hallways at the Munich high-end show. So, and I haven't heard anything. Nobody's been mentioned to us from the reps. So I just know, I think it said it was coming in 4th quarter. So, yeah.
Just a matter of time.
We do have the integrated coming, and we're super excited about that because it uses the GAN technology. And I'll tell you, man, every time I hear an amp with that GAN technology, I'm like, damn, you sure that's not tubes?
Yeah.
You know, it sounds really smooth and liquid. So, yeah, I'm excited to get that in.
That's almost like cheating, the GAN technology. That's
really
what it seems like.
I know.
Okay, Daryl McBain said Rex did my house with Ed DeVito.
Yeah.
Big shout out to them.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah. I've got plenty of reading to do this weekend that Rex has sent me over with different options. So I appreciate, looking forward to it.
And then DivertTT, follow up on the power question. If you have a dedicated line, is it bad to have the entire system on that single dedicated circuit, amp, source, and subwoofers?
That's a really good question. So if you have one dedicated line, so if you have a 20 amp, and I'm not an electrician, and I'm sure there's electricians that will correct me, but my understanding is if you have a 20 amp line, you have 15 amps of available current, essentially. What happens if you have everything on one line is that you will rob your system of dynamics. So those dynamic peaks where the amplifier is maybe needing 6 or 8 or 9 amps of current, your other system, your other components are drawing the rest. It's gonna be a choke point. So ideally, there are ways around it. So you could, if you can't run a second or third line, ideally I tell people to run 3 lines. 2 for monoblocks, 1 for everything else. That's really the best way to do it because the preamp, the sources, they're not going to really draw that much current. So they can go all on one line. But the amplifiers, even if you don't think you'll have monoblocks, still run 2 for the amplifiers and 1 for the sources. So 3 in total. You can always run more, but 3 is the minimum. 3 dedicated 20 amp circuits allow each amplifier to have maximum available current, and it allows the sources and the preamp to share. So that's really the best way. So to get around it, if you have one outlet, you could look at a product like the AudioQuest 7000. It has a giant transformer. We can barely lift it. It's like 100 pounds or something ridiculous here. So that will store up current. So when there are dynamic peaks in the music, it will draw down from that transformer. So you're kind of cheating a little bit, but it's a way of doing it for sure.
Yeah. Okay, so we have another question from Reshkin. Hi guys, I'm not in the US, but have recently acquired the Stein Music 4-unit H2 harmonizer from a dealer.
Mm-hmm.
I was shocked with the improvement and everything that I now, and I now think it's a critical component.
So he's talking about the harmonizers.
Yeah, the Stein Harmonizers.
So
we have them too.
So Holger Stein and his beautiful wife have been to our store several times, and the first time they came, they brought the Stein Harmonizers. Now Holger has a PhD in like quantum physics, I think, right?
Yeah.
So he's a very smart individual.
He's a character.
He's a character. So he starts putting these devices all over our rooms.
Yeah,
while we're listening.
Yeah.
And be like, we're hearing it, the sound open up and open up and open up and get more relaxed. And I mean, talk about the voodoo. It drove me insane.
Yeah.
So, but it worked. And I asked him, I said, can you explain to me how this works? And he looked at me and said, I'll just put it this way. It allows the music to travel through the air easier. I was like, okay, I don't know what it's doing. But while he was adding the harmonizers throughout the room, and there's passive and active ones, they work together. Well, while he was putting them up, we were listening and hearing the changes. So yes, I would agree with you. Congratulations on purchasing those. We have them, we sell them, and I hate to admit, but we did hear a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. It was crazy. So, let's see. Steve says thanks for the answers to his questions.
Thank you, Steve.
Jerry Lampert said, glad to see you guys picked up the Rose product line.
Yeah, I got to give a shout out to Jerry. Jerry brought his Rose to the store. And he was telling me about it. And he said, you got to hear this product. You got to see this product. I'm thinking, Hi-Fi Rose, I haven't even heard of this thing, you know. This was months ago, months and months ago, and Jerry brought it to the store, and we hooked it up, and we were like, we kept saying, how much is this? How much is this thing? Like we couldn't get over the price, you know. So yes, thank you to Jerry for bringing it to us, and we have other customers that are very good at alerting us to things that they hear, they buy, they see, whatever. So yeah.
Yeah, so we're stagnant on questions at the moment. If anyone has any questions, feel free to shoot them at us. What do you think? What do we want to talk about?
Let's see. We've talked about power. We talked about the Lin. What other new things are we kind of playing with? Right now, we're waiting on the MSB digital director. So MSB has come out with a new product called the digital director. I mean, we're all trying to understand it, and I think until we get it in the store and play with it, we don't really have a full idea of its capabilities. But my understanding is the digital director will be a standalone case. It will look like the power supply cases that come with the reference and the Premier and the Select. It will look like that, and it's going to allow you to put modules into it, and then it will have fiber optic output. So it's essentially creating a brick wall between the DAC and the input modules. It also is going to have a lot of memory and space for the developers to create digital filters.
On the FPGA.
Yes.
So a separate FPGA.
Correct. So they'll have more room, more space, more ability to do digital filters for the director. So it's certainly, now what MSB says, and we will certainly test it out here, I have no reason to disbelieve it, they purchased a bunch of different, what I call network transports, music service, Lumens, Arenders, Orlix, blah, blah, blah. They've purchased a whole bunch. And what they wanted to achieve was a device that would essentially make them all sound the same. Because the concern was, we've never really heard how good the DAC can be. Because if you put a MacBook Pro on it, it may not be as good as if you put an Arender N30 or a Takeo on it, right? So the choke point for the DAC was always what was feeding it. And so their answer to that, rather than come out with their own music server, Their answer to that was to create a device that would essentially just take whatever you're feeding into it, your favorite device, Rune, yeah, maybe Rune, feeding Rune into it, fiber optic out, and everything sounds the same. All the inputs sound the same. The Ethernet, the USB, the SPDIF, the AES EBU, all sound the same. And it all sounds the same depending on whether you're using the Arender, the Orlick, the Takeo. It didn't matter. So we'll see. We remain cautiously optimistic.
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
this is what they've achieved with this incredible product that they've been working on for years, from what I understand.
And you mentioned it's cross-compatible across the entire line.
Yeah, so they will have two versions essentially. One will be the Premier version, which will be for Premier and discrete customers. And the second version will be the reference / select. So that will be the exact same version with more, parts and better parts in the ref and the select one. The only difference will be the casing. So there'll be a small upcharge for doing a select to match the rest of the, the select, the power supplies and the DAC module. But you could buy the reference digital director and use it with a select. You certainly could, but the chassis wouldn't match, but you could do it.
So yeah, we do have some more questions here. We have one from Michael Freeland.
Mm-hmm.
He says, I like both Esoteric and Luxming. How are the 509X and the F05 in comparison? So the comparison between the two.
Well, the F05 is more detailed, more dynamic. I don't want to say more forward, but more dynamic and more transparent. Yeah. There's a lot of information with it. It's very neutral. It's very, if you're looking for detail and resolution, I think the F05 and comparing is the way to go. And then comparing it to the 509. 509 is sweeter, richer, has more of a relaxed sound.
Almost tube-like.
Almost tube-like, yeah. I would agree. Not quite. The 590 was more tube-like.
Yes,
I missed the 590.
The
590 is the one product that we all loved.
Yeah.
It looked good. It sounded good. I wish they still had it.
I know.
Yeah. The 509 though is, with a warmer speaker, with a more neutral speaker. I like to put, the 509 with something that's a little warmer, like a Harbath. I like to put the F05. Those are definitely the ways to go.
Okay, another one from Divertity.
Mm-hmm.
He says, thanks for the insights. Follow up on power. I'm currently using the QB8, grounded by Q Core, which, good choice.
Yeah.
With all components plugged into it. If I get another dedicated line just for the amp, should I plug the amp directly into the wall, thus skipping the PB8 and the grounding? Absolutely.
Yes, 100%. So at home I have the QB8. And my amplifier, which right now is the Boulder 1161, I'm waiting on my Block Audio mono blocks, actually. I've ordered the Block Audio SE monos and the Block Audio Pre for my home system. So I'm plugging my 1161 Boulder directly into the wall, and then I have everything else going into my QB8. Now, most important, make sure you know that the preamp goes in that special dedicated outlet, because all of the other devices create a common ground around the preamp. So that's very, very important to do. I'm also running the Q Core at home as well. So, and I'm using my Shinyata Sigma NR. I know that doesn't make any sense, but I am. I'm using my Shinyata Sigma NR V2 power cables. I really like how they lower the noise floor even more. And then my speaker cables are Karma to go with my speakers. So.
Okay, so we have another one. This is from CAB. When is Luxming going to be coming out with a new preamp to replace the 900
next
series?
year? So next year, we would expect it to be called the C10X to go with the nomenclature of the M10X and the D10X. But the answer to that is next year. So right now we sell the C900U, which is still a great preamp, with the M10X. That's a really good combination. But the C10X, which I think it'll be called, will be out next year. That's kind of the goal. I would expect maybe around March, April, May, somewhere in there is usually because we're starting to see shows kicking off, and I would expect to start seeing some mention of it then.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. So this is also from CAB. Would an MSB DAC be overkill on a Hagel integrated?
No,
so, MSB
which well we
or...
we use the MSB discrete with the Hagel 390.
Yep, the
H390.
H390.
I think it pairs beautifully well.
It does. It's perfect, actually.
It is. It's really good pairing. So no, remember I've always said, and I mentioned this on Jay's channel. Have we done that video? Oh yeah, we were live, and I mentioned that. Sorry, I mentioned on Jay's channel the importance of the source, and I always believe that the source first. So that's an old theory that Lynn and Name and others have always advocated for. That the source is the most important, because once something is broken downstream, it can't be fixed.
Right.
So keep the signal path as pure and as best as you can, starting with the best source.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Okay, next up, we have another one from Divertity. What wall outlet do you find works best with your Boulder 1161 or 1160? Are you using an aftermarket power cable for the Boulder or stock?
So for my 1161, I'll answer your second question first. For my 1161 at home, I am using a Shinyata Sigma NRV2. Remember, the 1161 has just a normal 20 amp IEC input. It doesn't have the Waltham 32 amp like the
garden hose. The fire hose.
Yeah, like if you're not familiar with Boulder, the 1160 and 2160 and 3050, all those models have the 32 amp. They call it, I believe, the Waltham connection.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like something you plug your dryer in with.
Yeah.
It's huge. So, but the 1161, which is the baby amp, it has just a regular 20 amp IEC. So I use the Sigma NRV2 power cable with that. What was the first question again?
Well, so what wall outlet? The specific outlet.
Yes. So great question. I was using, if you're talking about the store, we use, in here we have all AudioQuest NRG something wall outlets that we use. And remember, when you put in a new wall outlet,
upside down.
Upside down. There's a free trick for you, because if you don't, the cable will tend to sag. Put it in upside down, it doesn't sag. But what I did at home was I had the MIT filter. They actually have filters on them, the outlets, and I found that they were choking the dynamics of the system. They were certainly, well, I think they were maybe lowering the noise floor a little bit, but they were certainly choking the dynamics. So I just switched recently to the Block Audio C-Lock SE2 outlet, and that one actually has the top of the line Furatech outlet built into it. So what the C-Lock is, it's like it's better than even flipping the outlet upside down. So it comes with the outlet upside down, yeah, but it also comes with a C-lock mechanism where you put in the cable, then you tighten this lock, and you can't pull it out. So you can't, you're switching wires or you're nudging, it won't fall out. There's no way.
It tightens an O-ring around.
Exactly. We normally have one here, but it's like a perfect connection. And so it's made by Block Audio. So Block Audio not only makes the amps, the preamps, but they make, power products as well, power cables, power conditioners, and also the wall outlets. But they do use the top of the line Furatech guts, if you will, of the outlet with their C-lock mechanism. So check those out. We have them on our website. Otherwise, the Furatech, we actually, I know this is going to sound crazy, but in our Tampa, it's called the Suncoast Audiophile Society, but in our Tampa audiophile group, there's about 150 members, and a few years ago we did a wall outlet shootout. So one of the gentlemen he's an engineer, actually created this, this board with all these outlets, and we wanted to compare the crappy, wall outlet that comes in your house, and then several models above, and everybody picked the Furatech, the GTX, whatever, the Rubidium, whatever, the fanciest one
Rhodium.
that they, whatever. Sorry, Rhodium. The Rhodium one, whatever it was, that's the one everybody picked as the best. And yeah, it was crazy. Yeah. That's what nutty audiophiles do on a Saturday.
Yeah. Okay. Some brands and this comes from Michael Freeland again. Some brands like Esoteric and Luxming recommend using only their power cables, but is the idea of using Furatech's NanoFlux a good one? Speaker and XLR from Furatech too. So.
Well, I mean, you can certainly use aftermarket power cables.
Yeah.
I think what the manufacturers are saying is that when they're designing the product, they're voicing the product, they're using their stock power cable, whatever that might be. I had this conversation with Nelson Pass once. I said, Nelson, which power cord should we use on our amp? He said, the one that comes in the box. And I thought, well, okay. So there's no doubt that power cables, some reduce noise, some provide more detail, some provide more warmth, has all to do with the capacitance and inductance and various other things in the cable, the materials that are used, is it silver, is it copper, what is it? So, I mean, I hate to say they're a tone control, but you certainly could adjust the sound.
Absolutely.
If you wanted a little warmer, a little more detail, that kind of thing. So
it's not that cables sound better, it's that they sound different.
Right.
That's the way I see it.
So if you want a little more salt or a little more pepper, there's certainly power cables that will do that type of thing. I think the Shinadas have a titch of warmth, but they really do reduce the line noise, so I like those. If I have a warmer system, if I'm listening to Pass or VAC or something like that, I tend to go towards an AudioQuest cable, which is very transparent, very dynamic, and alive. And then the Nordos power cables are exceptionally good. I mean, I love the Valhalla 2 and the Odin 2. We have them in the middle room. Those are very fast, open, big sound, dynamic,
snappy.
Yeah, really, really good. So it just depends on what you want to try to achieve in your system for that. I do want to talk about, I want to talk about the Esoteric. The Esoteric, guys, the new Master Discrete technology for Esoteric's DAC. So the the KO3XD, the KO1XD, the K1X, the D1X, the NO1XD, and the NO5XD. I think I've got most of them down. This is not anything like the Esoteric that you may have been exposed to 5 or 3 or 2 or 10 years ago. This new Esoteric sound is unbelievably good. It is sweet, it's dynamic, it's dimensional. When I brought in the KO3XD, the first piece we brought in, this is going back even before COVID, I think. And we had the KO3XD and we set it up, and I was sitting right here in this room. Yeah. And I was like, Mike, something's wired out of phase.
Yeah.
Because I'm hearing shit over here and stuff over here and stuff. I mean, it was incredible. So I just gotta give a shout out. I mean, even the KO5XD, which is kind of a multi-purpose, the NO5XD, which is a multi-purpose device, is really, really good. The NO1XD, the Grandioso K1X, I actually have at home with the PS1. I'm listening to it right now, and I'm blown away. It is sweet. It is musical. It's never aggressive. It's big holographic sound. It's for me, MSB, Esoteric, Aqua, depending on your budget, those digital devices I just love. Mike loves the Lin. The Lin is, I have to get you, it's so much information. It's like, I'm not sure this old brain can comprehend all of it. It's like I'm waiting for something to jump out at me. I'm all nervous. It's just so much information coming out of Lin. It's not bright. It's not aggressive, but it's so much. Your brain is going to be like, Did I hear that? What was that? What was that? What was that? You know, you're gonna be hearing little nuances in music that you've never heard before with that. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Okay, what else here? Okay, another one from Diversity.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for the answers. He says he has the 1160. Is it worth getting an aftermarket power cable?
No.
Yeah.
No, not for the 1160. No, it's not. We actually did the demo. I actually had a Audio Quest Hurricane terminated with the 32 amp connector, and then we compared it to the stock 1160. Honestly, I didn't really hear much difference. That is just because of the way I think that the amp is designed, and I think the connector, I think, has a lot to do with it. Power cables, in my experience, have always made the biggest difference. I think because they carry the most current, and in the signal path, I think they have the biggest effect. But when it comes to that particular amp and the 2160, we did the comparison. I didn't really hear much difference. I think the stock power cord is all you need with the Boulder. Yeah.
So that's where we're cut off right there. There's nothing really.
Okay. Well, we can wrap it up. We really appreciate everybody's time. Mike and I are we're gonna enjoy the long weekend coming up. We got a busy week next week. We're doing some B&W installs down in Naples, and we've got a Karma install in Lakeland or something. Where they live? Dunedin. We've got a bunch of other stuff that we got to do next. Oh,
troubleshooting. I have to do the troubleshooting.
We have to do rune troubleshooting. The story of our lives. Yep. More rune troubleshooting. So yeah, we got a lot of house calls to make next week, and we have deliveries coming. We have a brand new pair of Karma DB9 signatures in black coming for inventory, so we got to take those to the warehouse. So yeah, we're gonna be busy. So
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. Hope you enjoyed our first live podcast, and we'll do some more in the future. Thank you again.
Thanks.
All right.
I don't know how to end it.
It's okay. I can do it.